Everyone told you that healing would set you free. No one warned you that before the freedom, there would be a kind of grief so quiet, so disorienting, that you would wonder if you had made a terrible mistake. You started doing the work. The therapy. The journaling. The long walks. The honest conversations. And somehow, things felt worse. Not better. Asterisco worse. And the most frightening part? That feeling might be the most important sign that healing is actually working. There is a story we have all been told. It goes like this: you suffer for a while, you do the work, and then, like a light switching on, you begin to feel better. The weight lifts. The fog clears. You emerge on the other side of your pain like someone stepping out of a dark tunnel in the warm afternoon sun. It's a beautiful image. It is also, in almost every meaningful way, untrue. Because healing, real healing, the kind that reaches the parts of you that have been quietly aching for years, does not feel like a tunnel with light at the end. It feels, at first, more like a demolition. Like someone has finally agreed to renovate the house you have been living in, except no one told you that renovation requires tearing down walls, pulling up floorboards, leaving in rubble before you can live in something whole. You may have felt this in moments when you finally let yourself cry about something you had held together for years. The release was real, but so was the exhaustion that came after. The strange emptiness. The feeling that something had shifted but you weren't sure yet what had moved, or where. That sensation, that dislocation, is not a sign that healing has failed you. It is the first sign that it has found you. But this is the part that nobody talks about. The chapter before the breakthrough. The season that doesn't make it into the inspirational posts. The lone, disorienting stretch where you are no longer who you were, and not yet who you are becoming. When you begin to heal, truly heal, some things leave. Not the things you expected. Not the weight, not the sadness, not the patterns that have made your life difficult. Those take time. What leaves first, quietly and without announcement, are the things that were keeping you comfortable inside your pain. The relationships that depended on you never needing anything. The version of yourself that smiled through everything. The coping mechanisms that felt like survival, the busyness, the scrolling, the numbing, the performing of okayness for an audience of people who never actually asked if you were okay. They begin to fall away. And in their place, silence. That silence can feel like loss. It can feel like standing in a room where furniture used to be, not yet understanding that the room is actually larger than you realized. Not yet able to see it as space rather than emptiness. There is something that happens in the nervous system when old patterns begin to dissolve. The body, which is extraordinarily good at adapting to pain, registers the change as a kind of alarm. This is unfamiliar. Unfamiliar can feel dangerous. And so the body sends up a signal, not of freedom, but of grief. Because you are grieving. Even when what you are releasing was harming you, it was also known, and the known, however painful, carries its own strange comfort. You may have felt this when you finally set a boundary with someone who had taken from you for years. The relief was there, but so was a hollowness. A wondering. Asterisk, did I do the right thing? The wondering isn't weakness. It is the texture of genuine change. The question worth sitting with is this: what if the things disappearing were never truly yours to begin with, only the roles you played to stay safe in the world you were given? Long before you have words for what is happening, your body already knows. It knows when you are finally releasing something it has been holding for a very long time. It knows because it responds, not with relief, not immediately, but with a strange physical restlessness. A heaviness in the chest. A fatigue that sleep doesn't quite touch. A sudden sensitivity to things that used to roll off you. Trauma researchers have written about this for decades. The body stores what the mind cannot yet process. And when healing finally arrives, when safety finally arrives, the body does something counterintuitive. It begins to feel the things it was too busy surviving to feel before. Think of it this way. Imagine you have been walking barefoot on gravel for so long that your feet have grown tough. The roughness is protection, you need it. But the moment you step onto soft grass, the tenderness returns. Suddenly you feel things again. Suddenly your feet remember what sensitivity is. And for a moment, everything feels raw and exposed in a way that the gravel never allowed. That tenderness is not damage. It is restoration. But no one tells you that restoration, in its early stages, can feel indistinguishable from falling apart. No one hands you a map for the season when your body is finally safe enough to surface everything it has been keeping underwater. You may find yourself crying in the car for no reason you can name. You may find that you are angrier than you used to be, not because you have become someone difficult, but because you have finally stopped swallowing things that were never yours to carry quietly. The body is not betraying you. It is finally at great cost and with great courage, beginning to tell the truth. Heat is the cruelest part of early healing. It looks, from the outside, and often from the inside, like things are getting worse. The people around you may notice that you seem more emotional, more withdrawn, less easy to be around, less agreeable, less like the version of you they had relied upon. And you, watching yourself from the inside, may begin to wonder if you have broken something that cannot be fixed. This is the breaking point that almost stops everything. Because when you are exhausted, and tender, and grieving things you cannot fully name, and the people around you are confused or worried or quietly frustrated, it takes something enormous to stay with the process. Do not go back. Do not pick up the old armor and wear it again just to make the discomfort stop. The old armor is always waiting. It fits perfectly, because you made it, years ago, to your exact measurements. But here is what that armor costs you, the ability to be truly known. The ability to be loved for what is real in you rather than for what is useful. The armor keeps pain out, but it keeps everything else out too. When people talk about healing, they rarely say, you will have to choose, over and over again, to stay exposed in moments when every instinct tells you to cover yourself. They rarely say that choosing yourself sometimes means choosing a loneliness that is different from, but not always more comfortable than, the loneliness you felt before. What they also don't say is this. The grief you feel during healing is not evidence that something has gone wrong. It is evidence that something is finally going right. The empty well is not empty because it has failed. It is empty because, for the first time in a long time, it is being cleaned. When healing feels like loss, it is worth asking, with gentleness, without judgment, what exactly is being lost. Because say you are losing something. This is real, and it deserves to be named rather than rushed past. You may be losing the identity you built around being the strong one. The one who manages everything. The one who doesn't need. If your sense of self was constructed around that role, if people have relied on you to be unmovable, then the act of becoming human-sized again is, in fact, a kind of death. The strong one dies. And something softer, something more honest, has to take its place. You may be losing a relationship that could only survive your silence. A dynamic that required you to stay small. A version of love that was actually a version of accommodation. You may be losing the story you told yourself about the past, the one that made everything bearable by making it make sense, even if the sense it made kept you trapped. These are real losses. They deserve real grief. But grief, unlike despair, moves. Grief has a direction. Despair circles. Grief travels. And somewhere in the traveling, somewhere in the long, slow, unglamorous movement through loss, there is a moment when you realize that what you are losing was always a weight disguised as a foundation. Not all foundations hold you up. Some may just hold you down, and the difference only becomes visible when you try to move. You have been trying to move. That is not a small thing. That is, in fact, everything. There will come a moment, not a dramatic one, not the kind that makes it into stories, when you will sit somewhere ordinary. A kitchen table. A park bench. A car parked outside a building you were afraid to enter. And you will feel it. Not healed, not the way the stories promised. But different, lighter in some way that is hard to explain. As though something that had been pressing down for a very long time has shifted, just slightly, just enough. You won't be who you were. You won't yet be who you are becoming. You will be, beautifully and completely, in between. And that in-between place, that quiet stretch of becoming, with its grief and its tenderness and its strange new silences, that is not the waiting room before healing begins. Asterisco, that is healing. In all its unglamorous, disorienting, necessary truth. You are not broken. You are not going backwards. You are the well being cleaned. The house being renovated. The feet learning, with great tenderness, to feel the grass again. Stay with it. Not because it will become easy, but because you, underneath all of it, are worth what this costs.